Hi guys, welcome to Little Wicket Railway. I'm Rob and in this video we're looking at Hornby's brand new Black 5.
You came so close and we know you tried. I like my model but it ain't the ultimate Black 5. The Hornby, you came so close and we know you tried.
I'm recording this introduction after filming the review of the model, and as you'll see, it wasn't straightforward and I came very close to sending the model back. You might have seen Sam's Trains review of his model where he did end up sending his back for a replacement, and even his replacement model wasn't very good. And if you haven't seen it, then it's definitely worth checking it out. Well, as you'll see, I had pretty much the same issues as him, and I don't think we're alone. I've seen at least one other video documenting problems, and I've read a number of comments reporting similar things. Given that it seemed like these issues were quite pervasive, I delayed finishing this video until I'd had a chance to speak to Hornby, who I saw at Key Model World Live on the weekend just gone. And I'll let you know what they said later. Plus, if you are having problems, then there are a couple of things that you can do that might resolve the issues, but we'll come to those later as well. Okay, let's get started on this review. The new Hornby Black 5 was first announced in 2022 and it's taken 2 years to arrive. Here's how Kohler described it when it was first announced in the Hornby 2022 range reveal video.
Hornby are going to be producing what is to be the ultimate Black 5. I very rarely use the word ultimate, but I personally believe this will be the ultimate Black 5.
Well, this ultimate Black 5 has already caused a bit of discussion in the community, and it's not all been positive. It seems like there are potential issues with the quality of construction, and questions have been raised around some of the design decisions. But sometimes it's the minority with the problems who make the most noise, and the majority might have received perfect models but don't feel the need to broadcast that. I was hopeful that mine would be a perfect example, but as you'll see, that wasn't really the case. And my expectations for this model were very high because this is a premium model, the ultimate Black 5, and the price reflects that with an RRP of £230 and a price at the retailers of around £206. For that price, it needs to be a top quality model and a massive step up from Hornby's previous Black 5 model, which is this one released in 2009, but I'm pretty sure it's from a much older tooling. This cost me 40 quid on eBay a few years ago, so based on value alone, I'm expecting the new model to be about 5 times better than my old version. So let's get the new model out and find out what it's like, but before we do, here's a brief history on the Black 5.
The LMS Stanier Class 5, also known as Black 5, is a class of 460 steam locomotives introduced by the LMS's chief mechanical engineer William Stanier. 842 were built between 1934 and 1951, and they were designed to be a mixed traffic locomotive that could go anywhere and pull anything. All of the class passed into British Railways ownership, and several survived until the last day of steam in 1968. 18 are preserved, and you can still see some of them operating on the main line. And here she is unboxed. The first thing to mention is that as soon as I opened the packaging, even before I picked up the model, this tiny part fell out. And for the life of me, I can't figure out what it is or where it goes. I thought it was a sandpipe, but it looks like they're all there. Maybe it's a lever from the cab area. Please let me know in the comments if you know where it goes, and also let me know your thoughts on when things like this happen and parts drop off. I've seen a range of opinions on this. At one end of the spectrum, there are those that believe this is totally unacceptable. Loose parts are a sign of poor manufacturing. These are expensive ready-to-run models that should be able to withstand a level of handling without parts breaking loose, so return it for a replacement. And at the other end of the spectrum, there are people that think that the odd part coming off isn't the end of the world, and it's kind of inevitable given the level of detail on model locos. And as modelers, refitting little parts like this shouldn't really be an issue. So I'm somewhere in the middle. Having parts fall off when you open the box isn't great, but I've had it happen before with the Akira Scale Deltic and the Hatton 66. This is a tiny detailed part. It's not like the wheels are dropping off or something more concerning. Also, I don't think this is broken or snapped. It looks complete, so personally, I don't mind reattaching the odd loose part, but I just can't work out where to reattach it. Anyway, moving on. First impressions, apart from the bit that dropped off, are generally good. It's a smart looking model. The paintwork seems fine, the lining around the cab looks good, and all the printed decoration has been well applied. There's plenty of moulded and separately fitted detail, including pipe work, riveting, whistles and valves. The valve gear looked great to me, and the cylinders have been painted up and highlighted. At the front, we've got the smokebox door with the hinges and dart highlighted in silver. We've got sprung buffers and we've got the lamps which should actually work according to the manual. These can be configured into different head codes, and the lamps are just held in place with a tight friction fit. The manual does warn that a good degree of modelling ability is required to change these lamps over because it's quite fiddly. So I thought I'd have a go at removing and replacing the centre lamp, and it took quite a bit of force to remove the lamp, but it did eventually come out. The problems really started when I tried to put it back in. It just wouldn't go back into the hole, and despite what the manual says about friction fit, I suspect that glue has been used to hold this in place. In the end, I gave up, and there was no way that that lamp was going back into the hole without a huge amount of effort, and I just didn't have the time. And whilst fiddling with the lamp, I also noticed these bits of tape sticking out from the edge of the buffer beam. This looks to me like Captain tape, and I'm guessing it's been wrapped around the PCB that holds the LEDs in place. I don't think it would be a big job to trim this down, but it's not really something you should need to do on a £200 model.
The model comes with an accessories pack. In there we've got a spare lamp and lamp iron, alongside a painted driver and fireman, and various other optional parts, including what looked to be a couple of ploughs.
Moving back along the model, I decided to check if I had a straight running plate or if mine was warped like Sam's was, and there is some slight curvature, but I wouldn't say it's too noticeable and it doesn't bother me. It would have been better if this was metal rather than plastic, and I was expecting it to be die cast really given the cost. The lack of metal also makes this model feel a little bit underweight. Moving on to the cab roof vent slides, not a feature I find super useful, but I suppose some might like it. And the inside of the cab is incredibly detailed. This is probably my favourite part of the model, with all the pipework, dials and gauges. It's got seats for the driver and fireman to perch on too, and the firebox door is open to show off the flickering firebox effect, which we'll check out later. The cab glazing also looks great. Moving back towards the tender, this is the connector that was giving Sam problems. Mine looks to be okay, but I suppose we won't know for sure until I get it on the track. It's definitely neater than having visible wires running between the loco and tender, and it seems to snap together and come apart fairly easily, but I do wonder how many times that can be done before the contacts start to wear down. There is a tender full plate, but it doesn't reach the tender. There's still a sizable gap, and this was one of the issues that Sam had with the model. And it is disappointing, seeing as Simon Kohler promised us a close coupling solution.
The models will feature a new close coupling loco to tender mechanism.
And I wouldn't say that this is really a close coupling solution. Looking at the tender, apart from the handrails and the lamp brackets, most of the detail is moulded, but it does have printed information relating to water pickup, and the coal looks good enough to me. Plus we've got the working lamp on the rear. Comparing this to the old Hornby version from 2009 that I've got, obviously they're worlds apart. The level of detail in all areas on the new model is incredible, and there's little point in comparing them closely because the new model is just hands down better. But is it £140 better? I suppose that's the question, and we can really only answer that once we've seen it run, so let's get it on the rolling road. Here we go, she's on the rolling road. I'm using a basic analog controller. Let's turn it up and see if it moves. So it's moving, and I was fairly sure that mine would be a runner because derails have already tested it. It does look like it's sticking slightly during the rotation. Hopefully that's something that will resolve itself after it's had a good run in. Let's check it also runs in reverse and see if that's okay.
Looks to be fairly good at slow speed, straight out of the box as well, which is a good sign.
Yep, so that all seems to be fine. Again, maybe a little bit sticky in part of the rotation. There are plenty of pickups on this model, both on the loco and tender, so there shouldn't be any issues with stalling. There's no flywheel, which is disappointing. The theory is that the flywheel was sacrificed to make room for the steam generator, which obviously this model doesn't have, but other variants do. Maybe they could have designed it so that the flywheel was removable when the steam unit was installed. I think under DTC control, the decoder will largely compensate for the lack of flywheel using back EMF and simulated acceleration and deceleration. Let's throw it back into forwards.
Again, already some really lovely control at slow speed, so that's going to be really good for when it's coupling up to wagons and things like that. But still looking maybe a little bit sticky at the top of that rotation.
Another nice to have and something we're seeing as standard from Mercury scale is a pre-installed small stay alive. Nothing major, just something to keep the lights on and the wheels turning over small dead spots on the track. and I feel like for over £200, this is the type of feature I would like to see. Whilst it's running in, let's look at the lamps. All nice and bright at the front, you can see the LED in the hole where the lamp used to be, and inside the cab we've got the flickering firebox. I'm going to leave this to run in, and then it's time to get it on the layout and have a little running session.
And this is normally the section where I'd get some shots of the loco running, stick on some background music and summarise my thoughts. But as you'll see, this running session didn't really go to plan. Uh-oh. The lights are still on, but it's not moving. Is this the same problem that Sam had? Let's take this off and go and investigate. It's on. So it's definitely getting power at the loco end, but something is not running through the tender. Oh dear. And I thought I wasn't going to have this problem. I think it's slowing down noticeably on the curves as well. Let's wait for it to come back out. So it does look beautiful. Will it stop again? Oh, this is not good. Yeah, it slows right down on the curves. Yeah, it really doesn't like it. Let's put the camera back on the tripod and I'll see whether I can run over that point at slow speed. That's actually about 40% power. And it's barely moving. And I've not touched the controller, that's at 40% power. Are the lights still on? Yes, the light's still on, but it's not moving. So I think this is a connection problem. And I can see that it looks like it's connected fine. Down here, there's nothing wrong with the actual connection. I can see it's physically connected. So so I was just about to put everything away for the night, and I turned the camera off and actually taken the SD card out, and I decided to see whether I would could run this slower over the points that it seemed to struggle with again, and it appears to have completely locked up. So if I go turn the controller up to, you should be able to hear the loco buzzing, but I don't think it's going to move. If I move the camera around, you'll be able to see the lights come on, so you'll know when power is applied to the track. The lights are on, you can hear the motor buzzing, it's not moving. The thing appears to be broken. Let me take it off the track. Oh, hang on. Here we go. This explains why it's not moving. It's pulled itself apart. Can you see that? We've lost one of the connecting rods. So where's that pin then? Right, I need to go look for the pin that holds that piece in place, so I'll be back with you shortly. A small miracle has occurred. I have actually found it. In the hidden part of the layout, so I think we can safely say that the build quality on this model is rubbish. Well, I couldn't end it there. I've put the pin back in. Let's see how it runs. Let's look at this dodgy set of points that it doesn't seem to like. There's nothing wrong with the points. Everything else manages to make it through. Yeah. The lights are on, but nothing's happening because of that tender connection. There we go. Slow speed is not for this model, neither are tight curves. I wanted this model to be good so badly. I really did. Oh well. So just to summarise that running session, the model wouldn't go through the points on anything less than half power without stopping dead. I think this is because the loco to tender connection stops working mid-curve. On analog control, it slowed dramatically every time it reached a curve, even radius 3, and then a pin came out and the connecting rod dropped off. At this point, combined with the lamp problems, the parts falling off when I opened the box, and the tape sticking out from around the buffer beam, I was ready to send this thing back, and I really had lost interest in the model, and I was hacked off with Hornby. But before I had the chance to return it, a couple of things happened. Firstly, I went to Key Model World Live and spoke to the Hornby team about the issues I was having. They had a Black 5 running on their demo layout. I had a play with that and I could see that it wasn't stopping or slowing down on the curves, which was reassuring, but it was being run on DCC. They said they were aware that changing the lamps was difficult and conceded that although the instructions say it's a friction fit, the factory may have used low adhesive glue to keep them in. They were surprised to hear about the issues with the tender drawbar. It's a design they've used on a previous model and they hadn't had many reports of it not working reliably. They were also surprised about the pin falling out, and they encourage people to report things like this so that they can address them with the factory and quality control, because they can only fix what they know about. Ultimately, they said that the model was covered under warranty, so if it didn't run correctly, then not to worry, they would replace it. Hornby also reassured me that they are including more innovative features in future models. For example, their Flirt has a magnetic cover that allows access to the decoder socket. Anyway, I left Key Model World Live having seen a Black 5 working perfectly on DCC, so I was going to try that, and also having discussed the problems with the team, felt a bit more positive about Hornby in general. The other thing that happened is that Sam's Trains released a follow-up video and he suggested cleaning the tender contacts because that improved the performance on his. So when I got home, I gave the model one last chance. I grabbed my isopropyl alcohol and my cotton buds and gave the tender connection a good clean. They didn't look dirty to me and there wasn't a lot of dirt on the cotton bud once I'd finished, so I wasn't really confident this was going to help, but I gave it a go anyway. I also installed a HM7000 TXS 21-pin decoder because the Hornby demo model ran so well on DCC. Unfortunately, whilst other manufacturers have found ways to make installation of a decoder a lot simpler, Hornby still require you to remove 2 screws to install the decoder and a speaker. The decoder lives in the tender and they've created a mount for the Sugar Cube speaker, although I'm sure having the sound come from the tender will upset a few people and it's a bit tricky to install with all the wires that get in the way. Also, the back of the speaker is metal and I was worried it might touch a component on the decoder, so I decided to cover the rear of the speaker with a piece of insulating tape. Then I uploaded the Black 5 sound profile from the HM7000 app and it was time to give it a go. Straight away it was like a different model, no slowing down on the curves, really smooth running, and everything is better with sound. But the real test was whether my cleaning had made a difference, so I ran the model at speed step 1 through the point that it was having trouble with before, and it crawled through without any issues. So after all that, I was really happy with how it was running. Having the decoder installed also gives you more control over the lighting. You can turn all the lamps on and off, and on an auxiliary function you can separately control the rear tender lamp to make it red. Okay, so it's time to wrap this up. Is it the ultimate Black 5 we were all promised? Well, sadly, no, I don't think it is. There's still plenty of room for another Black 5 model that's better than this one. Yes, it is a massive upgrade on Hornby's previous versions, and it's got an amazing level of detail, but there are a few things that let it down. I love the idea of swappable lamps and head codes, but the idea hasn't been well executed, and it's far too difficult to change the head code in practice. The tender drawbar is an area of concern. Cleaning it seems to have resolved my problem, but I'm still worried about its durability, and I wouldn't say it's a particularly close coupling. The build quality is also below expectations. There's too much plastic and not enough metal, parts are falling off, and tape is sticking out from the buffer beam. It's lacking features that we've come to expect from other manufacturers, such as a flywheel, easy access to install decoders, built-in stay alives, pre-installed speakers, and magnetically activated flange squeal. The performance on the analog controller was pretty poor. It slowed down far too much on the curves. I think to get the best out of this model it needs to be run on digital, or at least with a good feedback controller. So in summary, I've been on a bit of a journey with this model. At one point I was about to send it back, but with most of the issues now fixed and a decoder installed, I'd say it was satisfactory. And keep in mind that this is a £230 model. It should really be flawless. I'm just left feeling a bit disappointed that Hornby overpromised and underdelivered on this one. It could have been better, and it's definitely not the ultimate. If the price drops to around £150, then I would feel like that's a more appropriate price point. So if you're thinking of getting one, then maybe hang on for a bit. Simon Kohler said that they were going to make loads of variants of this Black 5 tooling, so I expect to see it in the range for many years to come, and it won't be too long before they start to appear second hand. And who knows, future variants might have some of these issues resolved on them. Like they did with the APT, they might listen to feedback and tweak the design where possible. Maybe they can modify the tender connection or improve the way the head code lamps go in and out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video useful, then please do give it a like, and I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, as I'm edging closer to that 20,000 mark. Special thanks to all the YouTube members and patrons for your support, it's very much appreciated. That's about it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with some clips of it running, and I'll hopefully see you again soon.
Got myself a new Black 5, but it wouldn't stay alive. That tender connection got my attention. I cleaned it up and put in a decoder, run smooth on the tracks. It's not going back, it's falling off. The factory didn't get it right. Changing head code lamps, it's a painful fight. Expensive model, I'd say overpriced, but she does look good, and now she runs real nice. So on Hornby, you came so close, and we know you tried. I like my model, but it ain't the ultimate Black 5. Simon Kohler made a promise, the ultimate Black 5. But then he left Hornby, and for 2 years nothing arrived. When the model finally landed, Sam's train set his back. He wasn't impressed that it wouldn't run on his track. Oh, Hornby, you came so close, and we know you tried. I like my model, but it ain't the ultimate Black 5. We wanted it to be so good, want to own it with pride. But I'm sorry, Simon, this just ain't the ultimate Black 5. Oh, Hornby, you came so close, and we know you tried. I like my model, but it ain't the ultimate Black 5.